Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. You know, in our everyday lives, we throw the word power around all the time to describe everything from brute physical strength to just, well, working really hard. But when we dive into the strict and honestly fascinating world of physics, power isn't just about what you do. It's actually about this hidden variable that completely changes how we measure performance. So today, we're going to unpack the actual physics of power.
To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to picture a simple scenario. Imagine two students standing at the absolute bottom of a long staircase. Next to each of them is a heavy, completely identical box. The mission here is super straightforward. Carry that box all the way up to the top flight of stairs. They both start at the bottom, and they both successfully lug their box to the exact same top step. Now, in physics terms, because the weight of the box is the same and the height of the stairs is the same, both of these students just accomplished the exact same amount of physical work. But here is the big question. Are they equally powerful?
Well, let's bring a stopwatch into the mix, and suddenly the whole story changes. Student A absolutely crushes it, hitting the top step in just 20 seconds. Student B kind of paces themselves, finishing up in 40. Now remember, the actual physical work they did is totally identical, but that massive 50% time reduction from student A, that right there introduces the fundamental physics definition of power. It's not just about muscling the box up the stairs, it's all about how quickly you exert that energy. And that brings us to the true official definition. Power is the rate at which work is done or energy is transferred. And I really want you to notice that word rate. A rate means that the ticking clock is literally the ultimate dividing factor here. A machine or, a student that accomplishes the exact same amount of work in less time simply possesses greater power. It is entirely about the speed of that energy transfer.
Okay, so how do we actually measure this? Moving from this abstract concept to hard numbers is just a really straightforward two-step process. First, you calculate the total work done, and then you simply divide it by the time it took. You aren't just looking at the heavy box sitting at the top of the stairs anymore. You're factoring in those seconds ticking by on the stopwatch, dividing the overall physical work by that time.
So this gives us this beautifully elegant formula. P equals W divided by T. Power equals work over time. And because time is sitting right there in the denominator, a shorter duration is going to yield a significantly higher power output. Tying this right back to our staircase puzzle, the W, or the work, is identical for both students. But because student A got it done in a fraction of a time, their actual power output is exponentially higher than student B's.
Now, in the International System of Units, we express this rate using the watt. And 1 watt simply means that exactly 1 joule of work is being done in exactly 1 second. It helps to think of it kind of like a flow rate. Just like you'd measure a rushing river's output in gallons per minute, we measure the transfer of physical energy in joules per second. So the higher the wattage, the stronger the current of energy flowing into whatever task you're doing. But let's be real. A single watt? That is just a tiny, tiny trickle of energy. To actually drive the modern world, we have to scale way up to kilowatts, which is 1,000 joules per second, and eventually all the way to megawatts. When engineers are out there designing massive power plants or huge industrial machinery, they are operating in megawatts, aggressively transferring literally millions of joules of work every single second. It's incredible. To really put this scale into perspective, just think about your own house. Compare a standard LED light bulb, which might sip, maybe 10 watts of power, to a standard electric iron. That iron pulls a massive 1,000 watts. Why such a crazy gap? Because generating the intense, immediate heat needed to press your clothes demands a rapid, heavy transfer of energy. It literally takes 100 times the power of the bulb that's just casually lighting up your room.
And we see this demand for high energy transfer absolutely everywhere around us. Like a standard washing machine fighting through heavy, soaking wet clothes, it relies on high power ratings to force all that agitation. And here's a fun fact. A typical car engine requires tens of thousands of watts just to get you from a dead stop up to highway speeds in a matter of seconds. It's just an immense amount of physical work completely compressed into this tiny little window of time.
So ultimately, power tells us how quickly work is done. And really, this is the core takeaway from modern engineering. A designer doesn't just care if a vehicle or a new appliance has the raw strength to eventually get a task done someday. They are judged entirely on efficiency and speed. The real world demands that machines don't just finish the job, but they get it done right now. And this is exactly our student staircase dilemma, just applied directly to industrial design. If you have two motors lifting the exact same heavy load, but a larger, beefier motor completes that heavy lift in a fraction of the time, well, it is, by definition, the more powerful machine. The physical work didn't change at all, only the velocity of that energy did.
All right, so let's distill this whole explainer down. Power isn't just the work itself, it's the rate of the work. Whether you're measuring it in watts or calculating joules per second with work over time, the golden rule is always the same. Higher power simply means doing the exact same amount of work in way less time. True power in physics is all about conquering the clock.
Which leaves us with kind of a provocative thought to end on. Take a second and just look around the room you're in right now. From the screen illuminating this explainer, to the unseen water pumps in your building, to the appliances humming away in the background, how many thousands of watts, how many invisible joules per second are working tirelessly right this very second to power your life? Kind of changes how you see the world, doesn't it? Thanks for tuning in.